My name's Elliott Blaufuss, and let's talk race with Just James. All right, friends, today I've invited my friend Just James to come talk with me. Just is a consummate artist, player, producer in his own right in Nashville, Tennessee, an all-around great guy, great energy. And I'm very happy to have him here. Here is my friend, Just James.
All right, so we're here. So I guess I wanted to. I can just go back to where I guess George was killed and stuff was going like that, because I want to talk about racial stuff and the protests, and that's the main reason I wanted you to come and do this. So I guess I'll just start by kind of saying what I was feeling, kind of all this stuff, and then you can interject and let me know, and then
Okay.
I want to hear it from your side, and then I have some questions and stuff. But like, when George was killed, I didn't go back to Minneapolis, and I feel a lot of regret for not like standing with my city, for not going back there. And I had stuff that was going on in my own life that was that I needed to deal with and be a part of. But I think I have a lot of. I just felt like, man, I should be back there, you know. But anyway, so I was there, and he was killed, and all my friends, you know, there was terrible things. There were fires. There was all this stuff, and my friends were the people I knew were protesting peacefully. I didn't have service where I was, so I'd drive into town and call them or send them an email or something just to try to, like, get a feel of what was going on. I was calling a bunch of different people, and, you know, everyone was like, we're peaceful, you know, but I had people with bombs in their alleyways and SWAT walking down their street and stuff, and, like,
Wow.
It was really intense. I mean, I should say the house that I lived in for 10 years is about less than a mile away. My one friend is 3 blocks. And so all my friends are in South Minneapolis, like very, you know, one friend was right by the police precinct. And so I was feeling in touch and really like heartbroken, you know, for everything. But I want to remember how our interaction, it was something about, I think I was commenting on something of yours, and you were, I don't remember how it started, but it kind of got to like, you know, it would be helpful, like you were saying, it would be helpful if you put a video out. Mm-hmm. If you, and I just, my thoughts on that are, I don't really love it when certain people do that. A lot of people, when something comes up, they're an activist. Oh, now I'm an activist. I know I'm not an activist. I know what I stand for and the people that I love in my life. But so I feel like it's kind of posing in certain ways. And so I thought on it. I didn't do it for like 2 or 3 days. And at first I was like, I think angry, to be honest. I was like, man, he's telling me to do this. I think people who do that are bullshit. Like, I stand for my black brothers and sisters. I've played in bands for years and became close with people. I grew up in a white suburb. My mom worked downtown at the hospital, so like I got the influx, but where I grew up was super white. And so, but when I went on the road at 17, I started to meet other people and play with Mexican guys, and, you know, like, and that's what I wanted to do. I never wanted to grow up in this place, really. And so, another thing through all of this, I feel like, is defending, which is the thing that white people want to do, is defend themselves. And I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, so 3 days pass, and I just thought, if this is gonna give anyone any peace of mind, it's silly. Like, I went the whole other way, and I was like, it's really like mule-headed of me to not do that. And I was like, do it, say what you would say, be honest, and put a video out. It's not a huge deal, you know? Yeah. And I did that, and then then we talked a little more, and I intentionally didn't want to just like reread our conversation, but there was one thing I don't want to put words in your mouth. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was something I feel like a generalization of like these racist, or like these older folks, these grandparents and stuff like that. And I took it because I'm proud to be from family that's progressive, which is such a bullshit thing in that time for me to need to make about me. That I realize now. But I like defended myself, and I was like, hey man, I'm from, and I imagine if I were you, I would just be like, that's not the thing right now. That doesn't matter. And and then we talked some more, and I guess it was just like, I felt like I was like, oh, I've thought of myself as this progressive guy this whole time. I think what this boils down to is I've felt like this progressive person. And so I think really like, why is just not even coming after me, or like putting the light out, like do something, man, and I was like, but why would he do that to me? It's like, no, I think in retrospect, since that happened, that's not what it's about in this moment. It's about, you need to shut the fuck up as a white person. You need to listen, talk to your people, and try to do good things, try to be better, and not make it anything about yourself or about your self-awareness or about your, how great you are to the cause or something. You just be there. You do the best things you can in day-to-day life. You do other things like write your congressman. This is what I think. You do these other ways of writing your congressman, knowing what's happening, knowing when they're taking away voting rights from black folk or whatever, be informed to some level and do these things you can on day to day. But I think that's what I felt like I got caught up in. And I do want to say I'm sorry to you if I was defensive. I'm very sorry. And it's not something that I ever wanted to, I just shouldn't have made it about myself, because it wasn't in that moment. And I really think trying to see things through other people's eyes is the main perspective, is the biggest thing. So it's like, anytime you see a new trailer for a movie, it's like, as a black man growing up, it's like, who's the lead? A white guy. Anytime you go to a county fair in your town, the mayor gets up or something, it's probably a white guy. It's like everything, the successful guy, the businessman, the lawyer in town, in the small town, like he is probably a white guy. Like all these things, I'm generalizing, but you're just seeing this your whole life. You're seeing this whole thing. And I felt like I was getting, I just think I'm getting some fresh lens on it and fresh perspective. I hope we all are, but I really feel that I am. So sorry, just talking,
You're
but
good.
tell me from your perspective, how it felt with our interaction, or just how you were feeling about everything with George Floyd, or what your kind of like your journey with that was.
Well, I would have to rewind. It hit me in a different way because I kind of grew up in the South as a kid, not knowing about, racial stuff,
And where was that?
Jackson, Mississippi. So I was there from about how old you are in 5th grade till about, high school. That was my time there.
10, 11, 12 or something, maybe move.
Yeah. And then I moved back to the city. I moved back to Phoenix, Arizona. That's where I'm from. That's what I know. That's a different culture there, right? So me moving to the South as an adult, I was already experiencing a lot of things that I've never experienced before. Being a black musician in Nashville, like that was weird for me to encounter some of the encounters I've had. It was very racist encounters. There was one time I was playing for this local band here, and I took the place. This was right before the George Floyd thing, so this is going to explain like how angry I was at the time.
Okay.
So I was playing this gig downtown with this band, and their old bass player, who I took his position, he came through from another gig and wanted to sit in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, hey man, sit in for as long as you want, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna go to the bathroom downstairs, but that bathroom was totally packed. So I walked upstairs to go to the bathroom, kind of get a beer or whatever. And on my way back downstairs, the security guard, mind you, I've been playing a residency with them for a year by this time there. So I've been there every Thursday.
Right.
So I'm walking back downstairs, and the security guard says, tuck in your chains. And I look at him and I say, hey man, I work here. I play with Chris. I've been playing here, you know, for the past year, every Thursday. And he's like, I don't care, tuck in your chains. And so I've never seen the security guard before. This is my first time seeing him there. And so I just kind of excused myself, and I just walked down the stairs. I'm like, what the hell this guy's talking about? So I just left him alone.
Right.
Walked down the stairs, and he yells there's a security guard right at the bottom of the stairs, and he yells at that security guard, get this guy out of here. And I'm thinking he's joking. I'm like, he clearly knows I'm working tonight, right? Like,
is it maybe important to ask if he's white or black?
He's white.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that security guard tells me I told him, I said, yo, can you tell your guy that I work here, I play with Chris,
Right, every week?
Every week, yeah. And he was like, he's the head of security, so if he tells you gotta go, you gotta go. So my gear is on stage.
During your gig?
During my gig, yeah. We're like the second set in, maybe. And so my gear is still on stage. They escort me out, and I say, well, if I gotta leave, let me go get my gear. And they said, we'll have somebody bring it to you. And that's when I blew up. I went crazy at this time. I was like, you're out your fucking mind.
Right.
Nobody's gonna touch my shit.
Right.
So I walked through the other door, got on stage, and by this time the band is still playing. They're watching, they're looking over here at the door, and mind you, I'm the only black guy in the band.
Yeah.
So they're looking at the door to the left and seeing all this stuff going on with me and the security guards.
Right.
Nobody's asking any questions. Nobody's wondering, why is my bass player being kicked out on the night that we have to play?
They're seeing this happen?
They're seeing this happening, yeah. So
they're not like on the mic like, yo, knock it off.
They're not saying anything. So I walk through the other door, because that security guard over there has no clue what's happening. So I walk through the other door. I get on stage. I start packing my gear. They have a talkback mic, and we use ears on this gig. Mm-hmm. So I get in the talkback mic, and I say, if you guys don't fix this, I'm never playing for you ever again. I said, what just happened to me was terrible. So I leave, didn't get paid for this gig, I leave, and I come back to try to reconcile with
Why didn't you get paid for it?
I don't know.
Because they were paying at the end of the night.
Well, the sub guy, who was their old bass player who came to just kind of hang out and sit in, he played the rest of the night.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that's why he didn't pay me. But I came back at the end of their gig, and I tried to reconcile with this security guard and the guy that I play with. And I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, what happened? And he was like, I didn't know what was going on. I said, but you didn't ask. Like, you just kept playing. Like, you kept playing your gig.
Right.
So we walked back inside. We tried to talk to the security guard, because by this time they kicked me out and banned me from coming back. So we talked to the security guard, and we were like, hey, man, you kicked my bass player out. And he cut us off. He was like, I don't care. This guy can never come back in here. And so I looked at, I was like, I'm never working with you. Because he's just standing there, not even saying anything. He's not saying a word, right? So where am I going with that? So yes, that happened to me at a venue here. And so I was already kind of like fed up with the racist interactions that I've been getting. Even with that band, I'm not saying that any of them are racist, but when things like that happen, they don't say anything.
Right.
Especially, I was like, and mind you, the entire band has on chains. While we're talking to the security guard, has his shirt open with a silver chain, kind of like
a silver chain outside of his shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're black, so you're in a gang,
right? Exactly.
If you got a chain, or
so
you have
that's
a gun.
that. Me seeing all of that, and even though it's not said that because he was black, you can feel that, right?
Yeah.
And so that when that happened to me, that George Floyd thing happened like right after that. So I was already fed up with the the interactions that I've been getting being a black man in the South, and then seeing that video of him being murdered in the street, that just sent me over the top. So a lot of
watching it,
yeah, because I've never seen nothing like that.
I don't think anyone has.
And so that put me in a place to where I was being very impulsive. You know, I could admit that how I was coming at my white friends was very impulsive and in an angry state. I didn't really like kind of get myself together and understand the right language I need to use to, you know, speak to my friends about this.
Right.
I was just going. I was on 10, seeing red, fed up with this shit. You know, this is crazy. You know, so I didn't really handle myself in a way that was mature and that made sense, even to myself. I was just upset. So anytime, as far as like the social media stuff that we encountered, anytime like any one of my white friends posted something or said anything to me, I'm just like coming at them aggressively with what's going on and why are you not saying anything and why do I feel like you don't have my back, you know, like. And I even had to learn one thing that you said earlier about, you know, not being, because you're right, you're not an activist. That's never been something that you've done, even myself, you know. And then when something happens, all of a sudden I'm about the cause now. You know, I had to understand that does make sense, you know, because a lot of my friends were saying that. Like I've never been the type of person to do that. And you know me, you know where I'm at. So I don't know why you're feeling this way. And I was just not hearing it. I was like, I don't give a fuck. You know, I was like, I don't care. You know,
right.
Do something, say something, you
right.
know? And so yeah.
Because it was sparking something in you.
Yeah,
obviously.
for sure. Yeah. And so that's the part where I can say that I apologize to you because I wasn't really in a place of peace. I was just angry, you know, and not really knowing, you know, what to say to go about this to people.
Right.
But yeah, where I'm at, man, as far as I just yeah. I just felt like my one thing I will stand on is how I felt during that time was my people have been protesting and asking for equality for a very long time. Like, and we all know to keep doing the same shit and expecting different results, that's just not going to happen,
right.
You know? So I really felt like I feel like white people should be at the forefront of this protest, especially after seeing that. You know, maybe you've heard about things, maybe you see some stuff on the news that really doesn't convince you, but when you watch that video, that's all you need to see.
Right.
You know, that's all you need to see to say this is disgusting and this has to stop. Right?
Right. It was so far over the line. Like videos would come out before there's harassment. Phillipe Castile.
Yeah.
You know, there's all these videos where like the man's wife or girlfriend has it on tape or whatever, but apparently those weren't enough. It had to be something so dramatic, so over the line to finally catch people's attention. Yeah, and that's exactly how I felt. I was like, what more do you need to see? Right. You know, what else do you need to see to understand that this is crazy? So that's my primary stance is if we're going to achieve equality, it can't be us. Because it's just not, if a group of us get together, they're going to bring out the guns. You know, so I feel like if we're going to protest, if anything happens, I feel like white people need to be at the forefront of this protest in whatever way your protesting form is. If it's like what you said, you know, emailing the congressman, or, you know, if you're the type of person to go out there and protest, or if you're the type of person to make a video, whatever is your form of helping and protesting, I'm challenging you to do something because you're the only way that we're going to win this fight. There's not enough of us to win this fight, or maybe enough in power with the power. To change, that too. Yeah, you know, that too. Yeah, because it being set up, the you know, or the way that that is, and the way. But I mean, things are moving, I think, forward in a good way. Let me pause for 1 second, just make sure we're still rolling. It's like I want to talk with someone, and I think this talk is good, and I want it to happen. It's important. Just like I hear a lot of things that like are positive, and a lot of times I want to hear like a black person and a white person sit down and talk and say this is what it also, to say that, I thank you for your apology, but it's certainly not why I invited you down here. And I don't, I can feel that I don't know how I would feel, how angry I would have been.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, you didn't need to, but I love you, I love you as people.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we're doing this. But I also want to say do you think there's an element of it that it's like, because there's an element of hype, of people that jump on the thing,
Mm-hmm.
and the bandwagon, and that can be bad, but I guess in cases it can be good because it can get a movement, it can help a movement going. I mean,
Yeah.
people need to join for a movement to gain ground, But like, it's like, what percentage of this was because it happened because people didn't have anything to do, needed a place to put their energy, were bored and frustrated. Like, how much, my thing is always, how much will stick around? How much will how much will I continue to take from it? How much will I not forget? How much will I remember that feeling of like my city on fire, where I grew up in love, and remembering why that happened? And I want to say I was up in Minnesota in all of May, walking around Minneapolis, been to visit George a couple times, and that's a beautiful memorial, and like, I love it. Just, you can't drive down any of the streets around. People are like, fucking try to come, move this stuff. Like, it's not moving.
Yeah.
But there's a heat in Minneapolis I've never felt before with people. With particularly the first time I drove to the city to go to a meeting, I was walking down the street. It was like two black people with like younger 20s or something, and one of them was saying like, don't tell me that shit, I'm black and proud or something. It was like, it just felt like people were hot in this good way. Like there was this is how I would maybe liken it. Minneapolis feels a little more like Atlanta right now. Like, in the way that I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like when I first went to Atlanta and started going there, I was like, black people are like flourishing here in a way. And I haven't lived there, I might be wrong, but like, it looks like, people are successful, happy, and like they wear their hair, in very loud and proud and African ways and stuff. And like, Minnesota, it's just kind of a subdued culture, the people that were, the Germans and Scandinavian stuff, but it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's cold all the time, people are inside. It just doesn't feel quite like that.
Yeah.
Like proud black culture, and it's a little bit more separated. People don't live as close in the same neighborhoods and stuff, I feel like, in the North as they do in the South. People live closer. And
Gotcha.
Anyway, but it felt good. It felt like, I mean, it's a city that maybe needed some shaking up, and
I never knew that about Minnesota.
What's that?
Just the I guess you're saying its history is kind of segregated, kind of?
A little bit more. There's like the north side. I don't want to say for one second that people aren't proud black citizens in Minneapolis. No more so than Atlanta. It just feels like people are allowed to flourish and live a little bit more. And
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it just felt more vibrant in that way.
Gotcha.
I guess. And just kind of hearing like people talk on the street, and all the beautiful murals and art that have been, that have sprung up around the city. But anyway, I worry about the follow through.
It's regarding the I think you were talking about like the kind of the posing, kind of hopping on something when it's hot or whatever. I see both sides to that. I see if you're not one who usually is an activist in a way, I don't see anything wrong with staying true to yourself, But I do feel like, if if that is shaking you up a little bit, if it gave you anxiety, if it stressed you out, if it made you disgusted to see that, I feel like that's enough to share. You know, that's, to me, that's not really being an activist, if you will. That's more sharing with, you know, your people, like, yo, this is crazy, and we have to stop this. You know, you mentioned something earlier about the older white people, you know, and I feel like that generation just grew up in a different time, and as long as, might sound terrible to say, but as long as they're alive and raising their kids and their grandkids, that mentality is always going to be around.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if white people got as angry as black people at that video, I feel like then they should have done something about it. You know, and if it didn't bother you, cool. You know, if you're like, whatever, he deserved it, all right, whatever. But if you're the type of person that looked at that and said, yo, this is what they deal with, you know, then yeah, whatever you feel like you can do to add value, you know, do it.
To add value to it.
Yeah.
There was I'm sure you could look up somewhere, there was a beautiful list on like the gas station next to the George Floyd memorial that was kind of taken over. And there was like a beautiful list on there. It was like what you can do like day to day. And I'm sure you can look that up there's a picture of it online, I'm sure, but it was great. What were there any interactions you had during the protest that changed your relationships with people, or do you feel like you saw anybody grow or you know, or not grow, I guess, from it, or I guess, do you have any other, you know, with people other than me?
It did change some relationships for sure, especially with some of my opinions that I posted. But I can honestly say that I did not see growth or any enlightenment from people that I already know, you know? And it was like that for, honestly, all of my black brothers. Like, we all kind of talked about it. It was like, yo, like, it feels weird to play with my, you know, white friends now, because, like, the tension's in there. They don't know what to say. They're quiet, you know. They're trying to figure out, you know, am I the problem, or whatever it is that's on their mind. You know, it's like, it was definitely a different dynamic. And, you know, not a lot of coming out and saying, yo, this is wild. Like, I'm sorry you're going through this, you know, whatever, you know.
What would have helped for someone to say, for a white person on a gig with you to say, besides this is wild, I'm seeing what you're going through, this is wild what you're going through, this is... are there other things?
Yeah, just I mean, I guess I'm kind of annoyed with the question, you know, not the question, but with the thought of I'm uneducated on these things. Mm-hmm. But I had to realize that, you know, they really are, you know, regardless of how much it annoys me, they really are. So I guess I would like more of, you know, just that dialogue. How can I help you? How can I be better? You know?
Yeah.
How can I be a part of this situation to make you feel like not only I'm your friend, but I got your back? You know?
Right.
Things like that. Yeah.
Being uneducated is kind of a cop out, right? That's not really a, you know, that's like Americans in politics.
That's the part of it that annoys me. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
And then what could you do about that? You know, how could you educate yourself? For me personally, I feel like engaging in black culture is mostly with friends, meeting new people, meeting friends, being in neighborhoods you wouldn't hang out in, or having picnic at a park that you might think is a little sketchy or something.
Yeah.
But like, which it isn't. You know, I mean, or maybe there's crime, but like the people that live there are people and are loving people exactly the same as you are, that want to have a picnic too in a park by their house. But engaging in black culture, like plays, books, film, podcasts have been helpful to me. Stories. There's been tons of great stuff with, you know, New York Times, NPR, of like great black narratives, great things from the past, from now, from James Baldwin. Like, that stuff is helpful. to me as a white person. But I mean, I live next to the projects, and I have people on one side of me that are in $2.2 million houses, these tall and skinny houses, and they're wanting the projects to go away, which I think they're maybe moving out to the airport, the Edge Hill, the whole Edge Hill apartments.
Yeah.
And there are people in my neighborhood. In my neighborhood, I know the cops, I know the drug dealers, I know the black folk, I know the white folk. And the white folk are the only people that ever say shit, the only people that ever call animal control on a dog because they didn't like that it was outside for a couple hours. That situation I shouldn't say because I didn't know what about the dog. I don't want mistreatment of dogs, but
Right.
these people come from Scottsdale, Arizona, and they come from, upstate New York, and they come from these places, and they want to change where they're living to what it was like where they're from. They want to change the South, so everyone corner's got a fucking yogurt stand on it in an olive oil shop or something. Vinegars and all.
Right.
And the people say comments like, these people are them, and like everyone's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Their disconnect is the second John, a homeless guy in the neighborhood, comes by, or he walks by and they're peeking out their windows, but he sits down. I'm not saying this to sound like some progressive person, but I love people. I don't give a fuck. I always have since I was a kid. And so John sits down and has a cigarette, and we hang it for a while, and then a neighbor comes by. They're like, oh, hey. And I'm like, this is John. This is whoever. And then he's a person, Why did it... And the homeless, that's a separate issue, but John's black. But, like, it just sometimes takes getting to know them a little bit. Or
for sure.
Getting to know your neighbors, getting to know, like, whoever they are, I mean, anyway, that is something that's been helping me, is trying to... from growing up in a very white place, first of all, I didn't find it interesting. I didn't feel like it was a good, excuse me. I didn't feel like it was a good representation of the world, anyway, that's helpful,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have the same perspective even on Nashville as a city, I think, if I didn't live in a diverse neighborhood. And that's very helpful to me as someone who's from the suburbs.
Yeah.
What are other things you think white people can do to either, like what you said at a gig, like, hey man, how can I help you? Before I get there, I would say as a white person, I have some fear. I would have a little fear, I mean, not with like you or like my friends or anything. I guess just I'm thinking about like white people in general. To acknowledge it right on the nose is like, I think, scary to some white people. To say like, this is fucked up, being killed in the streets by cops is one thing, but like, how could I help or something? I think that's a hard thing to do. And I think it's some... it's self-awareness. It's an admission of a problem.
Yeah.
And I also think that there can be an intimidation with black people just from white people, just to talk to them, to be like, oh, I think there's an intimidation there. I think that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Especially when you're the only black guy in the room.
Right.
Yeah.
You came to Country Music Town.
Yeah.
So what are there other things that white people could do that you think the white folk can do for black folk in this moment?
Man, if I could just make it simple. You know how like sometimes you can get on social media and you're just scrolling and then you see like a meme with words on it, and it says something profound, and it kind of hits you in a way. It's like, oh, I've never had that perspective until I just read that. You know, and I'm sure that happened. I'm sure that's happened to you more than once. It's happened to me several times. I would just be scrolling and seeing something that's like, wow, and it sticks with me. It's actually something that I might apply to my own life. You know, so I think simple things like that, just being a person who is stand on, if your belief, if this is disgusting. I mean, it may sound tedious, but you saying something could potentially inspire your friend to say something, and it could potentially inspire their friend to say something. You know, my people, my friends. If I was white, I'm seeing all my white friends getting together and really being behind this. That would be encouraging for me. I would want to be a part of that. So I think I don't want to say, because I don't want to say what you can do. I would just say being firm on what you believe and letting the movement inspire you to move in whatever way that, you move, I don't want people to step outside of themselves. Just, if who you are is to be more of a delicate, silent partner, fine. That still could add value. If who you are is the person that's out there front, with the fist up, great. Just whatever way is your way. Or if you are the person that asks the questions and want to have the dialogue, if that's your way of, becoming a better person and inspiring someone else that's white to be better, I feel like that helps, that works, So yeah.
That's beautiful, man. It's just really, it's kind of incomprehensible, the divides, not only between like class in the world, but of race. And, it seems like there's some, maybe like it's taking another hold right now. Like there's another 60s civil rights moment. Hopefully. But I can say that it's done a lot of good for me when I thought already that I was a progressive person. I got black friends, I got this, and like, I know things about the culture, I know you're this or that, like, it's just different, and it's not, and I still don't have to be worried about getting pulled over, or I'm worried about a ticket. I'm not worried about getting shot, or like, thinking about a black friend of mine who was wanted to buy an Impala, but he couldn't, even though it was a smoking deal, because it's labeled as a banger car. Yeah. And so he's like, well, I can't buy it. I was like, why can't you buy it?
You get pulled over all the time.
You don't have the money? He's like, no, I'll get pulled over all the time. I'm black.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I'm kind of rambling a little. I was finding my thought, but it's like trying to figure out what you can do, and I think a lot of that for me is like, yes, you can donate money and you can do things, but you can just on a day-to-day, for me, stopping and talking to people is the closest way to get there. Yeah. A little understanding. You look at someone, you think you know what their life is about or something. You don't. Yeah. And so I had another question for you. Oh, do you think that social, like, at what point do you think social media is helpful, and at what point is it detrimental? Or helping awareness, BLM, color of change, or whatever. But then, like, at what point do you see conversations that aren't just bickering, not intelligent conversation? At what point? Because everyone can get all loaded up on one side, and everyone can get all loaded up on the other side, and you can fire arrows all day. But are they coming together at any point to try to learn to be open? Or are you just going to sling arrows?
I think there needs to be a healthy balance of both, because social media is, it's the new wave of communication now. It's That's pretty much where we get our news. I would be on Facebook looking at NPR videos and Fox News videos before I actually turn the TV on.
Right.
So that's our new form of communication. So I do think it's necessary in a way. And if that unhealthy dialogue is happening, it gives us a chance as Black people to see, what the majority thinks, and it also gives white people a chance to see, what their majority thinks and our narrative. Even though it's a very unhealthy way of a dialogue, it still helps you gain perspective. Like when I was just recently, I forget the kid's name, but the kid that got shot and he tried to get back into his car.
Ahmaud? Oh, no.
Not Ahmaud. It's just happened like, I'll say Dante Wright, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That situation, I was reading the comments on Facebook and just seeing how, careless like white people are. I was like, dang, like you really saying that, like, like this, just because he had a joint on him and some type of ticket from his license, or I guess his license was suspended or something like that, and he tried to get back into the car. You think that's enough to die over? Like, he shouldn't have been a criminal, or he should have been doing right, or he should have been looking like a thug, or just the things that I see. I'm like, wow, that's wild to me, and I've never seen that. I've never seen that until I moved to the South, man.
In Phoenix?
Yeah, I've never dealt with those type of things in Phoenix. So,
were there any examples of racism you can think of in Phoenix?
Only like I heard you mention Scottsdale. Only in that area, Scottsdale, Arizona. Yeah, it's you experience that in a more how can I explain it? Okay, so we were doing this gig at this casino in Scottsdale called Talking Stick Resort, and the majority of the band was Black. The only person in the band that was white was our singer. And our music director was the drummer, and the food and beverage manager came up to him and told him, like, straight up, he was like, hey, man, you got too many Black guys in your band.
What?
Yeah. And so he had to make the band. I mean, thankfully, I was able to stay, but he had to, like, get a white keyboard player.
Paint a white face?
Yeah, exactly. He had to get a white keyboard player and a white guitar player, and, like, it just, he had to change the band because management didn't like that the majority of the band was Black, and it was just that, So it's things like that it's racist things like that happens in Scottsdale on a more aesthetic, and I want to show my customers that they're in a safe space, if you will, but not on the level of
not with all those chains around.
Yeah, not on the level that I've experienced in the South, for sure. The South is a different type of racism on its own, for sure.
So someone once, I heard the quote, I think it was saying like, of Black people. It would be like white people saying of Black people. It would say, in the South, they don't care how high you climb, they care how close you are. And in the South, they don't care how close you are, they care how high you climb. So I use the example of like Congressman Keith Ellison up in Twin Cities, like progressive Black man, now congressman, started, or district attorney now, or anyway, I can't remember, but like pretty progressive. They're also the first female Somalian government official was voted in last year and stuff. But like I said, the neighborhoods are still more segregated. There's still, and I feel like when I moved to the South, there's different things within the institution, the systemicness of it.
Yeah.
Maybe within people who are voted in or something. And I might be I am talking outside of my intelligence level, but I do know what I feel, and I feel like I'm closer. I have a lot of Black friends in Minneapolis, but I live closer to Black people. Black people are my neighbors now. And I lived in a diverse neighborhood in Minneapolis, but it just feels more like it's more everyday, or I don't know. There's something
here in the South.
In the South, yeah. So I feel like as a white person, I gained good perspective from moving here of feel like I'm more in a community, and also Mexican people too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, was working with Mexicans last year and stuff from some buddies, and that's positive. But then as a black man, you're saying, you know, you can feel it on other things, because there's definitely the good old boys club, and we're still in pretty central. I mean, we're not even, can get more difficult, you know, the farther south you go.
Yeah.
So did you leave Mississippi when you were 11, did you leave?
I left Arizona when I was about, I would say 9 or 10, and moved to Jackson, Mississippi.
When you were, got you.
Actually, no, I take that back. I moved from, first place we moved from Arizona was Seattle, Washington. And we grew up in the suburbs there. Our whole neighborhood was white. But then we moved, when I was about in 5th grade, we moved to like the country area of Jackson, Mississippi. Like, I lived on 4 acres, and there was only like 5 houses on my street.
Nice.
So yeah, and I left when I graduated high school. So I didn't even understand what racism was at that time. You know, I was a kid. And then coming back in the South as an adult, I'm like, wow, this is wild.
Are there other accounts that you want to talk about, playing on gigs or anything?
Oh, yeah,
moving
man.
Here
I can talk about with the gig you put me on, dude. And not from staff or from, you know, from the artist or anything, but just being a black guy in a folk band. And at that time, you know, Josh was gone, so even though the drummer was Puerto Rican and the guitar player is from the Middle East somewhere, I forgot where he was from.
Yeah.
But they don't look like me though, you know what I mean? So me being a black guy in the band, and like when we're in these like super, you know, towns where you hear folk music, small town areas.
Right.
You know, I get off stage and I get asked the weirdest questions. This one lady took the band out for dinner. I forgot what city we were in. And she sat right next to me in front of everybody. We were all sitting at the table. She sat right next to me and she's like, "What are you doing in this band?" And everybody in the band just looked at me and was like, "I'm so sorry." And I was like, "What?" I was like, what do you mean, what am I doing? She's like, "You just don't seem like the type of guy that would play this music." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, they hired me. That's why I'm here."
Right. Brother can't like folk music.
Right. So, and then like in other places, like we'll go out, and I would hang with the artists a lot. And like, you know, especially in Woody's hometown, we would go like go out, have drinks, you know, hang with his friends that are there. And they're just not used to seeing a black guy. So they say the weirdest stuff. They say I mean, one person actually slipped up and said the N-word and just look, you know, and they just asked me like the weirdest questions. And I'm like, yo, this is odd, man. Like I've never had to experience things like this. So honestly, I was kind of insecure that entire time I played for him.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit to go out and hang, or even to be on stage. Like, it got to the point to where I was so insecure that I started changing the way I dress. You know, it got bad, man. Because
like in your head about it.
I was very in my head about it.
Change it. What did you change?
Just wear like regular black tee, black pants, like no chains, no earrings, no hats, nothing fancy. I tried to make sure my hair stayed cut, trim my beard down a little bit, you know, like
trying to maybe take away some of your blackness.
Exactly. You know what I mean? That's how much I was in my head, because it was a consistent thing that happened from city to city. And it even got to the point to where I started being in my head, well, I mean, you know, are they like this? You know, the people I'm working with, from management to, you know, assistants or whatever. Like, it got to the point where I just wouldn't hang anymore. I would just play the gig, you know. Had my headphones on the Sprinter or bus or whatever we had at the time, and, you know, just stay in my room or go hang by myself.
So that was like a big change. That racism, and also the amount of it that you were. I'm not saying making up, but the amount that you were. It was like making you insecure maybe about yourself. was like really affected your mood and stuff.
It did.
I didn't know that.
It did. It put me in a hole, man. And it got, and I think I was like 2 years, almost 3 years playing with him. So it was overwhelming for sure. Cause I've never experienced these things ever.
Right.
And like just dealing with it. And I was just like, yo, man, it got to the point where I was angry all the time. Like I didn't want to be there. I started really just like isolating myself from everybody, you know. And it got kind of weird. It got kind of weird towards the end for sure.
Do you think you would have felt that way in maybe mostly black like R&B band, like playing?
No, not at all.
Like the West Coast?
No, not at all. I don't think I would ever feel like that if I'm amongst mostly black people.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was a silly question. I guess I meant like it wasn't folk music, I guess.
And the band could still be white? Like maybe if I'm playing like that's like a soul Americana type stuff?
Yeah, or something like that. Do you feel like it was a lot of the type of the gig that you were on because the people were saying strange things?
I can give it that because that type of audience is different versus like, let's say if we were doing like okay, so I'll just say this like genre, like if I was doing like a soul Americana gig like we were talking about earlier, you know, that band, those players, that crowd of people, you know, even I would say, what's his name? Leon Bridges. His crowd is most of his crowd is white.
Yeah.
And so even being around that would be different because that attracts a different, you know, that attracts a different demographic of people that are about the culture versus playing on the folk gig. They don't really listen to the stuff that we listen to, obviously.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm not going to go see a folk band. You know what I mean? Unless I know that they're really good, but that's not going to be something I would pay tickets to and go see. Right. And so, yeah, I think it could contribute to the type of gig that I was on for sure. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I was just random tangent in my mind where it's like, there's like someone like Lil Nas X who's like putting that country song out and just like fucking like break it down, break the walls down. Like, why can't I do this? Why can't I be on the country charts? And they're like, oh, well, you can't be on the, you know, Nashville and CMT or whatever.
For sure.
You know, they're like, well, you can't be on country charts. It's like, why not? Charlie Pride was. Yeah. You know, why not this? It's interesting, but I didn't know a lot of that stuff, man, and this is why it's good. Yeah. I didn't know how it was.
Yeah. It wasn't horrible. But you can definitely feel like just like my type of energy, you know, the way I dress, the way I talk, you can definitely feel, you know, how did he get this gig? Like you can feel that everywhere you go. Everybody's just staring at me like I'm a sore thumb. Like there's like, yo, like, where'd you get this guy? And then they get around me and they just say the weirdest things. It's the most awkward interactions ever, you know.
I mean, if I was like describing you and if I was talking to someone else and they were like, oh, Just is on that gig and people give him shit because it's a whatever, it's a folk gig or whatever. I'd be like, just probably tell them to go fuck themselves and play the bass really well and then go to his hotel room and do whatever he wanted to. You know, like, I don't think of you, when I think of you, I don't think of you as someone who's like in your own head, kind of succumbing to other people, to the voices of other people that are getting you. Obviously, we all do it. You seem like a very strong man.
I am like that usually, but me not being in a way, me not ever being in that position is what really got to me, because I've never experienced that before. Right. So that's and then me also like being new to Nashville and not really knowing a bunch of people and you know, this is my first gig, you know, being here. Right. Like I'm in my head about all of that. I gotta pay my bills, so you know, I just kind of stayed in my head like, do I need to change something about myself? You know, like I've never dealt with that. But after that experience, I told myself like, yo, just be, man. Like, and if they don't fuck with you, then they just don't fuck with you. Right. Like, just be who you are, you know? And stop trying to change for whatever situation that you're in.
Do you feel more comfortable in that way? I mean, now just for the listeners, you have earrings in, hair's a little longer, beard's a little longer. Like, you feel good about
Yeah.
you are in your level of blackness and that you're portraying, and proud to be so.
Yeah, I am.
That's
I
good.
am. And it's like I said, it's usually like that, but just that situation and moving here has kind of like put me in a crazy space. But I just had to get back to Justin. Just be who you are, dog. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
what are you doing?
Be the boy your mother raised to be. So we were saying
About the looting and the
yeah. So talking about people saying things like, that's not how to conduct yourself.
yeah.
Talking about starting fires and looting things, and white people I was talking to saying, well, you shouldn't do that. That's not how you should conduct yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was just coming, the way that we started talking about this was, I was saying I would have been angry reaching out to people, like I don't know how I would have handled it. Everything, listening to people's accounts saying I've done my best in my life, but being 3 years old and watching my cops come into my house and beat my mom up, stuff like that, it's going to do something to you.
Right.
Over time, again and again, seeing this over and over. So yes, and it's an unpopular opinion, but maybe unpopular opinion still in my, with white people of how I feel, but I think it's got to go down. You've got to burn it to the ground.
Yeah.
Sometimes, how could you? I don't know. I don't know how you would not feel that way. So we were saying, writing letters, you can do this stuff all day. You can knock on doors and but how would you feel? How would you feel about it?
Yeah.
How would you put yourself?
If you were those people, like. I even said that when they were burning things down and looting. I was like, "Yo, do it!" Like this could provoke a different, perspective, and it could provoke change. Even though, I'm not even going to say that. It's just the last straw. That's the last straw. Like we said earlier. What else do you need to see, man? Like, what else needs to happen for you to realize that this is disgusting?
Right.
So to hear people, continuously say, I don't think black people should conduct themselves like that. They shouldn't be looting. They shouldn't be burning down buildings. They shouldn't be, doing things like that. It's like, yo, man, it's like kind of like a slap in the face. Like, what else do you expect? Like I said earlier, we've peacefully protested for decades, for generations. We've done everything that is reasonable. Now this is still happening. What else do you want us to do? What would satisfy you? To be quiet, not say anything, just deal with it?
Right.
Because that's pretty much what you're saying. Because we've already protested. We've already shown you that we are peaceful people, and that wasn't good enough for you. Right. So now, even though we've grouped as a people and we marched and we protested peacefully, they got the dogs on us. They pulled out the billy clubs. They got the water hoses.
Rubber bullets.
Whatever thing that they had to put us in our place, if you will, for us to, disband and go home. And then now we're doing the opposite. Now we're looting. Now we're burning down shit. Now we're getting angry, and you're still not satisfied. So what else is there to do? I don't know another option. Like we've tried everything. Right. So I don't think it's fair to point out, they shouldn't be conducting themselves in this way. Yeah. They should be angry.
It's empathizing with the situation. It's thinking about what your dad would have felt like and what your grandfather would have felt like. All of this, it's so compounded, you know? And to dismiss it like that, you just don't really, you're not really going there,
And it's like, to me, it should be simple. Like, let's take it to another perspective. Like, let's say, I'm dating a girl, or I'm married, right? And my wife comes home and sees me in the bed with another woman. how can I be mad at her reaction? Like, that's my wife. We made vows. Like, if she wanted to go throw all our fine china and break it and, you know, smash tables and, you know, put a dent in my car with a brick or something, like, how can I be mad at her for expressing her anger to my blatant disrespect to our marriage?
Right.
It would be very insensitive of me to tell her to calm down. It would be very insensitive of me to tell her to, you know, watch her conduct. You know, she's hurt. I blatantly disrespected my wife by having another woman in our bed, and she saw it. She came home. That's what she came to her home to her place of peace.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great metaphor.
You know?
And
so I think it's a simple thought. You know, it's not like we don't understand what real disrespect and heartbreak feels like. You know, so yeah, I just think that's whack that you would say that, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at that side, to go to that person's point of view.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to say what you would and wouldn't do from your comfortable house of no stress or no pressure or those things. What was the end of what you said? Oh yeah, about the metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really well done. You know, to say it like that, and it's like that thing that mistrusts the act of no respect.
Yeah.
What you're saying, the metaphor of you having an affair or something, you can take in any number of forms, from, you know, the quote unquote end of slavery taking 100 years to take effect, and people, you know, all those things. Or I just listened to Floodlines, a wonderful podcast about New Orleans, about Katrina. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
You should check that out. It's so great if you haven't heard it. But it's, I mean, they're talking about, they're saying, you know, people have mistrust. A lot of people who lived by the dam in Katrina say they heard explosions. Some people are like, there weren't explosions. There couldn't have been. People wouldn't have done this. It's just something that happened naturally. People say, no, I don't trust it. You know, you could put that right now next to, I don't know much about this, but black folk or Native Americans' mistrust of the government, of not taking vaccines or something.
Yeah.
Well, what did happen 100 years ago is that white people, white business owners and bankers did blow up the dam so that it would flood the Ninth Ward and not flood the French Quarter where all the businesses were. So it did happen. It happened 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So how can you say don't have this mistrust, don't have these feelings, don't have this anger?
Yeah.
When these are, I gave 2 examples or something, and there's thousands and thousands.
Yeah.
Of.
That's wild. I didn't even know that about New Orleans, about them hearing, you know, explosions to where it was like purposely done. Is that what you're saying?
That's what some people were saying.
Yeah.
And that's not really what the podcast is. The whole point of it is, or what it's posing, but it's or positing, whatever the word is, but it's in there definitely.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting. I'm sure there's more accounts on that stuff, but you should check it out. It's one great podcast. But you know,
it's happened before,
right?
You know, it's happened before. So why not think that this would happen again,
right?
You know, yeah. Man.
And then, you know, the full zoom out of the whole thing, to zoom out on the whole thing, and the hypocrisy of stealing black culture and destroying where it comes from at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Didn't know that, man. That's wild. That is crazy.
Kind of a, you know, broad cliche question, but is there anything, what do you feel like you learned, just to wrap it up? And thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
And it feels, I don't know, I don't, you know, do podcasts. It feels a little hokey with the mics, but I feel like I'm connecting with you, you know, we're really talking. But is there anything on the other side of this that you feel like you learned from it want to keep doing, or how has it changed you since George was killed? How has it changed you? How has it solidified your interactions with people? All right, let me start again. Since George was killed, what has changed about you, inside of you, in your heart, or your interactions in day-to-day life?
It was definitely a lot more awareness, because sometimes you can like live carelessly and like be like, that'll never happen to me, or not even with George Floyd, or like when you see harassment or any other things that's happening, you kind of think to yourself, I would never have to deal with something like that. But that perspective went away. It definitely made me more aware, and made me more mindful of how I interact. If I ever got pulled over, or dealing with the cop, how I would interact, what I would say. I took my shit out the glove box and put it on top of here, so I'm not reaching over. It just made me more aware of what I have to do to stay safe. Always, being mindful of, if I'm interacting with the cop, turn my record button on, turn on my camera, just to keep myself safe.
Have you been pulled over?
Yeah, I got pulled over in Lebanon about 6 months ago, maybe.
How did that go?
It was odd. The cop wasn't mean. He pulled me over because I was clearly speeding. I was going 60 and 45, I think.
Rolling out.
Yeah. And so he pulls me over, and he was like, "You were speeding." He said, "You're going about 60 and 45," and I gave him my information. I was like, "Yeah, I'm not even gonna argue with you there. I know." So I just gave him my information. He goes back to his car, and he's running my stuff. And then he comes back to my car, he gives me my registration and insurance back, and then he asks me, he holds on to my license, and then there's another cop truck that pulls up. So he's standing behind me, and the other one's standing by my driver's side window. And he was like, have you ever been in any trouble in Williamson County? And I was like,
I thought you were going to say in Canada, and you were like, oh shit.
He's like, Williamson County, and I think that's Franklin. That's where I first lived when I first moved here. And he said, have you ever been in any trouble in Wilson County? And I was like, what kind of trouble are you talking about? And he was like, there's something that's coming up on your license, but I had to call in to see what it was. It's not showing up on my computer. So he said, I'm just going to stand here with you and wait for them to call me back. And I was like, the only thing I've ever been to court for in Williamson County was a speeding ticket. That was it. I was like, I've never gotten in trouble ever. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
So I just let him do his thing. I let him wait. And he said, it's been about 5 minutes. I'm going to give him a few minutes, and if they don't call me back, you're free to go. So they ended up not calling him back. He gave me my license, and I was free to go. He didn't even give me a ticket. Yeah.
Did you do what you were saying, take your stuff out and put it on the dash and stuff?
It was already in my visor. As soon as he pulled me over, I already had it out with my hands on the wheel.
Were you nervous? Or just a little?
I would say, of course I'm nervous, but I was confident because I wasn't going to argue with him. I was going to be combative. I was going to, cooperate. And so I was confident that things were going to be fine. But, of course, that nervousness of being pulled over in Lebanon, Tennessee was there for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just did what I had to do. Took it out the visor, had my hands on the wheel, 10 and 2.
Recorded on your phone.
Recorded on my phone. And so he said you were speeding. I said, yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. Here you go. And it was cool.
I like, of all the stuff, I'll go back and listen to it too, because I want to hear it again. But it's like, I love you just saying like, man, if one of my white friends on a gig when all the shit was going down would, and it was hard maybe for them to say something, but for them to know, maybe if they were to listen to this, to say that I could say like, hey man, is there anything I can do? I'm sorry you're going through this. Is there anything I could do? As a white person in this moment. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing to take away from it.
Yeah.
Last question. Are white people allowed to listen to like Mos Def and Tupac if they knew who Frankie Beverly and Maze are?
Are they allowed to?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
If you know who the Gap Band is.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't, I guess you're allowed to, because There are things that white kids listen to today that don't know its origins. They don't know where it comes from.
Right.
You know, they just enjoy this new wave and this new culture.
Right. Don't know about the fat boys.
Yeah. They don't know anything about it. But you know, I think it's cool. I think it's fine.
I'm half joking. Half joking. I love you very much, man.
Yeah, I love you too, bro.
I don't know. Maybe we should put it out.
Yeah, I'm
I
down.
think maybe it could be helpful. Maybe we do one every month, but check back.
Yeah.
You get a hug, man.
Yeah,
I love you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
I really care about you as a friend, and I was when I wasn't hearing back from you, and I just know you were going. Like, you went in, you know, you were angry and understandable. Yeah. And I was like, man, I hope I didn't lose Just as a friend.
No, that never really happened. I wasn't that mad at you, because you weren't the only person I was coming at.
Right.
Yeah, I was coming at everybody.
Right. You want smoke?
Yeah. It was just.
I was the game he would play. He brought the clouds to my day. Then like a ray of light, you came my way one night. Just one look and I